Amidst the epic battle between the two ancient titans, Godzilla and Kong, the humans search for the truth behind the Skull Island's mysteries, discovering its origins and how humans are connected to the Skull Island. The movie begins in the Hollow Earth, where we see Kong running away from the wart dogs, leading them into a trap he created. The remaining wart dogs left once they realized that there was no way for them to beat Kong. Afterward, Kong took a rest when he heard a loud roar somewhere. He eagerly followed the direction where the sound of the roar was coming from, but was utterly disappointed when he realized it was just a parrot frog. Kong sat down on the ground and whined in sadness. Meanwhile, on the Earth's surface, Dr. Eileen Andrews talked about the recently discovered Hollow Earth and the Titans, specifically Kong and Godzilla. After defeating Mechagodzilla, Kong relocated to the Hollow Earth, where he set up his own territory to settle in. However, Eileen states that just like some humans, Kong is social and feels lonely too, as he is the last of his kind. Every day, Kong searches for his family and gets even lonelier every time he fails. On the other hand, Godzilla stayed on the Earth's surface to fight the battles humans can't and maintain order and balance between humans and the Titans. When Scylla wreaked havoc in Rome, Godzilla woke up from his slumber and headed to Rome to defeat Scylla. After defeating Scylla, Godzilla took a rest in the Colosseum, leaving the humans in awe. In Monarch's Kong observation outpost located in the Hollow Earth, Monarch agents were watching the news of Godzilla sleeping in Colosseum when they suddenly picked up an unidentified signal coming from Kong's sector. The pit that Kong created along with his traps had collapsed and formed a deeper pit, revealing an uncharted area where they detected more electrical anomalies. In Monarch's point of access to Hollow Earth, located in Barbados, Eileen checked the signal with Godzilla, who was still asleep in the Colosseum. In Monarch Base Academy, Gia Andrews, the last member of the Iwi tribe that Eileen had adopted, was in the middle of the class when the signal caused her to have hallucinations and flashbacks. Gia drew what she saw in her hallucinations and flashbacks on her desk and papers, causing worry to her classmates and teacher, who summoned Eileen to the academy. The teacher expressed her worry over Gia, explaining that while Gia was intelligent, she was not engaged and didn't like talking with anyone. The teacher then showed Eileen the drawings Gia made during her episode, and Eileen worriedly looked at her adopted daughter. After the talk with the teacher, Eileen conversed with Gia using sign language, as Gia is deaf. Gia expressed her worry over Kong and how she feels like she doesn't belong anywhere. Eileen, who was saddened by what Gia signed to Gia that she belongs to her, and vice versa, the two of them belong to each other. Meanwhile, in Kong observation, the agent monitoring is sleeping and was unable to see how the cameras they set up lost signal one by one. Footsteps of a Titan were heard, and the last camera showed the giant monster that had destroyed the cameras. At home, Eileen watched the old news of Gia being saved. She looked at Gia's drawings and was surprised to realize that the drawings are actually the signal spikes they got from Kong's territory. When she heard a noise from Gia's room, she worriedly rushed to see what happened and found Gia inside the port she made. Gia was sad as she signed how she felt like she was going crazy, and Eileen could only hug her as a comfort. Eileen headed to Miami to meet a guy named Bernie Hayes, who has a podcast dedicated to telling the truth about Titans. Bernie Hayes immediately let Eileen in upon learning who she was, and Eileen showed him the signal spikes in Gia's drawings. Eileen didn't know who else to ask about it, as everyone else she asked only told her that it might just have been radio interference. But Eileen feels that there is something more to it, and she wants to find out what it is, which is why she came to ask Bernie for help. However, Eileen received a message alerting her that Godzilla's vitals are surging and the Titan is on the move again. Eileen went back to Monarch, Barbados, and called the senator about Godzilla. She believes that there might be another Titan on Earth's surface because Godzilla only makes a move when it senses another Titan. Eileen was confused when she found out that Kong had left the Hollow Earth. She went out and saw Gia already watching Kong, who seemed to be in extreme pain. She saw Kong's wounded canine and sent a team to help the Titan. A team was sent to sedate Kong and pull his canine out, replacing it with an artificial canine. While Eileen was chatting with Trapper, they saw Gia conversing with Kong. Eileen talked to Bernie, whom she brought along, and Bernie told her that the signal they received was a distress call. There was something in the recently discovered uncharted area of the Hollow Earth that was calling for help. Eileen immediately called for a meeting to make a plan for searching the uncharted area and finding out what was down there. Eileen was preparing to go into the Hollow Earth when Gia approached, asking to come with them. Eileen didn't want Gia to come with them because it would be dangerous, but Gia told her that something in the Hollow Earth was calling her and she needed to go with them. Besides that, she could also help the team with Kong. Eileen finally agreed to let Gia come, and she reminded her adopted daughter to stay with her at all times. Eileen was both exasperated and amused when Bernie begged to come with them too, but she still agreed anyway. The portal to Hollow Earth opened, and Kong jumped in, followed by Eileen's team. Meanwhile, Godzilla had been seen approaching a nuclear plant in France, where they detected dangerous levels of radiation. Godzilla attacked the nuclear plant and absorbed the radiation. When Godzilla was ambushed by the military, he sent out a huge shock wave as he roared angrily. After his attack on the nuclear plant, Godzilla traveled to Antarctica and defeated the destroyer monster called Tiamat. After defeating Tiamat, Godzilla absorbed all the radiation in Tiamat's lair. It was detected that Godzilla grew stronger, and his energy capacity multiplied by 20 times. Eileen's team had arrived at the Monarch's Kong observation outpost and was horrified to find it destroyed. They found the dead agents, and when they saw a huge bloody handprint, they thought that it was Kong who attacked the outpost. But Eileen knew it wasn't Kong, but something else. Kong climbed down the unexplored area and discovered an underground cave where he found the remains of his kind. Then he discovered an underground kingdom, where he found a baby ape. Kong was happy to see the baby ape but was confused when the baby ape suddenly attacked him before running away. Then more giant apes appeared and attacked Kong. Kong defended himself from the apes and saved one ape from falling to its death. But the ape still tried to stab Kong despite having been saved, and Kong decided to kick the ape down the cliff. The other giant ape, who seemed to be the one leading the small group, ran away, leaving the scared baby ape alone with Kong. Kong hurled a stone at the ape to get one last hit before the ape escaped. Kong then threw Suko on the ground and roared at the young ape. He scolded Suko, and the young ape led Kong to their lair. Suko tricked Kong into taking a bath in the sea, where Kong got attacked by the sea serpent. Suko tried fleeing while Kong was fighting with the serpent, but Kong had already killed the serpent and prevented Suko from successfully escaping. They continued on their journey, and Kong even fed and cared for Suko. Kong and Suko reached the ape's lair and were surprised to see the number of apes hidden deep within the hollow earth. And all these apes were enslaved by their tyrant leader, Skar King. Skar King jumped down and slowly approached Kong. When he saw Kong's artificial canine, he laughed with his guards. Suko, young and innocent, laughed along, which angered Skar King. An older ape tried to protect Suko from Skar King but was kicked into a pool of lava, which caused Kong to be furious. Kong and Skar King fought against each other, but when Kong managed to throw Skar King down, the evil ape decided to blow out his weapon. Shimo is an ancient titan with the power of ice, and Skar King was using crystal to instill extreme pain in Shimo and control him. Kong was injured in no time, as he was no match for the ancient titan, and quickly escaped. The other apes chased Kong down but were stopped by Suko, who sent huge rocks rolling down the apes. Eileen was searching for the signal on foot when Trapper, a titan veterinarian, felt something was off. He claimed that he could feel a rotten smell, but the pilot, Miguel, didn't believe him. Suddenly, Miguel was eaten by a tree-like monster, and the others ran away in fear. After comforting the scared Bernie, the team continued on their search until they discovered signs of human civilization. They found a temple of praise, and when Gia accidentally clicked a part of the stone while trying to touch a firefly, a symbol on the ground suddenly filled with water. They followed where the water was coming from, and they found a section covered by a layer. Trapper pushed on it, which caused the layer to spark and allowed Gia to easily rip it open. Inside, they found an uncharted subterranean area, which Gia saw in her dreams. Eileen, Gia, Trapper, and Bernie entered the area and were suddenly cornered by the remaining members of the Iwi tribe. They were led to a circle in front of a temple, where tribe members stared them into their eyes, confusing Trapper and Bernie. Eileen informed them that the tribe members are trying to communicate with them using telepathy, as that is how they communicate with each other. The leader of the tribe appeared and gestured for Gia to come closer to her. Gia held the leader's hand, and they were brought inside the temple, where they were shown how they sent a signal to the surface. The tribe leader brought Gia, Eileen, Trapper, and Bernie to a dark chamber that was lit up by crystal, showing ancient carvings on the rocks. Eileen read the petroglyph aloud and learned the prophecy of the Hollow Earth. In the beginning, Hollow Earth lived in harmony with the surface. The Titans were the guardians of nature, and the great apes were the protectors of humanity. But a powerful and ruthless ape called Skar King threatened the peace because of his desperation to conquer the surface world and waged war against Godzilla's species. However, Godzilla defeated Skar King and trapped him and his tribe deep in the Hollow Earth. The prophecy tells Eileen about Shimo and how Skar King is controlling him. And she also learned that Gia is the key to reawakening the Queen of the Monsters, Mothra, who is the goddess of peace and an ancient ally of Godzilla, the king of the monsters. Later on, Eileen, Gia, Bernie, and Trapper were having a good time with the Iwi tribe when they suddenly heard an alarm. An injured Kong, assisted by Suko, had come looking for Gia and told her that he had lost his home. Trapper headed to the outpost by himself to get everything he needed to help Kong and went back to the temple, where he treated Kong's wounds with an advanced prosthetic arm. Kong had a bit of a hard time getting used to his prosthetic arm, but was still hyped up nonetheless by the additional strength the prosthetic arm gave him. Suko came running back in and told Kong that the Skar King had come. Gia told Kong to get help from Godzilla, and Kong left to do so. Eileen, on the other hand, was worried because she didn't think that Godzilla would agree to help Kong defeat Skar King. Through an access point located in Cairo, Kong went to the surface to confront Godzilla. While Godzilla and Kong were battling with each other, the Iwi tribe performed the ritual with Gia for the reawakening of Mothra. Gia climbed up the temple and reached out her hand, which successfully reawakened the queen of all monsters. Mothra left with Gia as soon as she was reawakened and stopped the battle between Godzilla and Kong. Godzilla calmed down when he recognized his ally and was finally convinced to aid Kong in defeating Skar King. Meanwhile, Skar King and his army had entered human civilization on Hollow Earth. Since Kong hadn't returned with help yet, Trapper used their ship to lure other monsters into the Iwi tribe's home and distract Skar King and his army of apes. Then Godzilla, Kong, and Mothra returned, and an epic battle ensued. With the crystals aligned, the gravity in Hollow Earth decreased. While fighting, the portal brought Godzilla, Kong, Skar King, and Shimo to the surface, and the fight continued in Rio de Janeiro, where they caused a lot of damage. During the fight, humans ran around in fear, and Kong worriedly glanced at the humans to see if they might suffer collateral damage in their battle. Shimo got the upper hand in his fight with Kong, while Godzilla, using all the radiation he absorbed, struck Skar King with his power. Both Kong and Skar King tried to reach for the crystal he was using to control Shimo. However, Zuko, who had followed them onto the surface, jumped in and destroyed the crystal. Shimo, who had regained control over himself, struck Skar King with his ice, and Kong destroyed Skar King's frosted body. After defeating Skar King, Godzilla sent a wave to the sky and cleared it up. Eileen and the others in Hollow Earth celebrated when they realized the war was over and they had won. It was time for them to return to the surface, and Eileen became emotional and scared after assuming that Gia was planning on staying with the Iwi tribe. But Gia reassured her that she was just going to stay with her tribe members and return to the surface with Eileen, Trapper, and Bernie. Meanwhile, Godzilla went back to the Colosseum to take a rest, while Kong, Zuko, and Shimo returned to the apes' lair in Hollow Earth. Kong roared as he became the new leader of the apes tribe.